Most people think anxiety is just worrying too much. But anxiety disorders are far more complex than that. Some people fear social situations, others experience sudden panic attacks with no warning. Some become trapped in endless cycles of intrusive thoughts and compulsive behaviors. And for millions of people, anxiety can quietly affect everyday life without anyone noticing. In this video, we'll explore the most common anxiety disorders, how they affect the brain, and the signs you shouldn't ignore. Welcome to Inside Your Mind. Before we begin, subscribe to Inside Your Mind for simple, evidence-based videos about psychology, mental health, and human behavior. And if you've ever wondered why anxiety affects people in such different ways, you're in the right place. Have you ever worried about something that might happen tomorrow? Maybe an upcoming test, a job interview, a financial problem, or an important decision. Worry is a normal part of life. But for people with Generalized Anxiety Disorder, often called GAD, worry doesn't simply come and go. It becomes constant, persistent, and often overwhelming. Generalized anxiety disorder is characterized by excessive and uncontrollable worry about everyday situations. These worries may involve work, school, health, relationships, money, family, or even minor daily responsibilities. The problem isn't necessarily what people are worrying about. It's the intensity, frequency, and inability to turn those worries off. Someone with GAD may spend hours imagining worst-case scenarios, even when there is little evidence that something bad will happen. Their mind constantly searches for potential threats, problems, and uncertainties. It's as if their brain is always preparing for an emergency that never arrives. Over time, this mental overload can become physically exhausting. Common symptoms include restlessness, muscle tension, fatigue, irritability, difficulty concentrating, racing thoughts, and sleep problems. Many people describe feeling unable to relax, even during moments that should feel calm and enjoyable. Their body remains in a constant state of alertness. Scientists believe GAD involves a combination of genetic factors, brain chemistry, life experiences, and environmental stress. Research suggests that certain brain regions involved in fear, emotional regulation, and threat detection may become overly active. The good news is that generalized anxiety disorder is highly treatable. Cognitive behavioral therapy, often called CBT, has been shown to be particularly effective. Mindfulness techniques, regular exercise, healthy sleep habits, stress management, and in some cases, medication can also help reduce symptoms. Everyone worries sometimes. But when worry begins controlling your thoughts, your energy, and your daily life, it may be more than ordinary stress. Understanding that difference is the first step toward getting help. Imagine you're sitting at home, watching TV, driving to work, or having lunch with friends. Everything seems normal. Then suddenly, without warning, your heart starts racing. Your chest feels tight. You struggle to catch your breath. Your hands begin to shake. You feel dizzy. And within moments, you're convinced something is terribly wrong. Many people experiencing this for the first time believe they're having a heart attack. But what they're actually experiencing may be a panic attack. Panic attacks are intense surges of fear that reach their peak within minutes. They can be incredibly frightening, even when no real danger is present. While many people experience a panic attack at least once in their lives, panic disorder develops when panic attacks become recurrent and create a persistent fear of having another one. This fear can become so powerful that it begins to change a person's behavior. They may avoid certain places, situations, or activities because they're afraid another attack could happen. Some stop exercising because an increased heart rate feels too similar to a panic attack. Others avoid driving, traveling, shopping malls, restaurants, or crowded spaces. The fear of the panic attack becomes almost as disruptive as the attack itself. During a panic attack, the body's fight-or-flight system activates as if facing a life-threatening emergency. Adrenaline floods the body. Heart rate increases. Breathing becomes faster. Muscles tense. The brain mistakenly interprets normal sensations as signs of danger. This creates a terrifying cycle. The more symptoms a person notices, the more afraid they become. And the more afraid they become, the stronger the symptoms feel. Fortunately, panic disorder is highly treatable. Cognitive behavioral therapy can help people understand and break the cycle of fear. Exposure therapy, breathing techniques, relaxation exercises, and medication may also be helpful for some individuals. Most importantly, panic attacks, while frightening, are not usually dangerous. Understanding what's happening inside the body can reduce fear and help people regain control of their lives. Most people feel nervous from time to time. Giving a presentation, meeting new people, speaking in front of a group. These situations can make almost anyone feel uncomfortable. But for people with social anxiety disorder, these moments can feel absolutely terrifying. Social anxiety disorder is more than shyness. It's an intense fear of being judged, embarrassed, criticized, or rejected by others. People with this condition often worry that they'll say the wrong thing, look foolish, make a mistake, or attract unwanted attention. Even small social interactions can trigger overwhelming anxiety. Something as simple as ordering food, answering a phone call, introducing themselves, or asking a question in class may feel incredibly stressful. As a result, many people begin avoiding social situations altogether. They might skip parties, avoid speaking in meetings, decline invitations, or remain silent even when they have something important to say. The fear isn't usually the social situation itself. It's the possibility of negative judgment. Their mind constantly asks questions like, what if they think I'm weird? What if I embarrass myself? What if everyone notices I'm nervous? Ironically, most people are far less focused on us than we imagine. But anxiety can make it feel as if a spotlight is constantly shining in our direction. Social anxiety disorder often begins during childhood or adolescence, though it can develop later in life as well. Scientists believe it may involve a combination of genetics, life experiences, temperament, and differences in how the brain processes social threats. Fortunately, social anxiety disorder is highly treatable. Cognitive behavioral therapy can help people challenge distorted beliefs about social situations and gradually build confidence. Exposure therapy, mindfulness techniques, social skills training, and in some cases, medication can also be effective. Being socially anxious doesn't mean someone dislikes people. In fact, many people with social anxiety disorder deeply want connection. They're simply battling a fear that makes connection feel risky. And with the right support, that fear can become much smaller. Imagine standing safely behind a glass window and seeing a small spider, or looking down from a tall building, maybe stepping onto an airplane before takeoff. Most people might feel a little uncomfortable, but for someone with a specific phobia, these situations can trigger intense fear that feels impossible to control. A specific phobia is an overwhelming and persistent fear of a particular object, situation, or activity. The fear is often far greater than the actual danger involved. Yet knowing that the fear is irrational doesn't make it disappear. In fact, Many people with phobias fully understand that their reaction is excessive. They simply can't stop it. When confronted with the source of their fear, their body's alarm system activates almost instantly. Heart rate increases, muscles tense, breathing becomes rapid. Some people feel dizzy, nauseous, or experience a full panic attack. Because these reactions are so unpleasant, many begin avoiding the feared object altogether. Common phobias include fear of heights, known as acrophobia, fear of spiders, called arachnophobia, fear of flying, known as aviophobia, fear of needles, called trypanophobia, and fear of blood, injuries, or medical procedures. While some phobias may seem harmless, they can significantly impact daily life. Someone afraid of flying might miss important opportunities. Someone afraid of medical procedures might avoid necessary health care. Others may organize their entire lives around avoiding their fear. Scientists believe phobias can develop through a combination of genetics, learning experiences, traumatic events, and evolutionary survival mechanisms. The brain learns to associate a specific object or situation with danger, even when no real threat exists. Fortunately, specific phobias are among the most treatable anxiety disorders. Exposure therapy has been shown to be especially effective. By gradually and safely facing the feared object or situation, the brain can learn that the danger it expects never actually occurs. Over time, fear begins to lose its power. The goal isn't to eliminate fear completely. It's to stop fear from controlling your life. Imagine wanting to go to the grocery store, visit a restaurant, take public transportation, or attend a concert. For most people, these activities are a normal part of everyday life. But for someone with agoraphobia, they can feel incredibly overwhelming. Agoraphobia is often misunderstood as simply being afraid of open spaces. In reality, it's much more complex than that. Agoraphobia is the fear of being in situations where escape might feel difficult, embarrassing, or impossible if intense anxiety or panic symptoms occur. The fear isn't necessarily the place itself. It's the fear of what might happen in that place. Someone with agoraphobia may worry, what if I have a panic attack and can't leave? What if I need help and nobody can help me? What if I lose control in public? Because of these fears, people often begin avoiding certain environments. Common triggers include public transportation, crowded shopping centers, theaters, long lines, large open spaces, busy public places, and sometimes even leaving home alone. Over time, avoidance can become increasingly restrictive. A person may start by avoiding one uncomfortable situation, then another, and another, until their world begins to shrink. In severe cases, individuals may feel safest staying at home most of the time. Agoraphobia frequently develops after one or more panic attacks, but it can also occur independently. The brain begins associating certain places with danger, even when no actual threat exists. As avoidance increases, the brain never gets the opportunity to learn that those places are actually safe. This creates a cycle. Fear leads to avoidance. Avoidance temporarily reduces anxiety, but it also reinforces the fear. Fortunately, agoraphobia is treatable. Cognitive behavioral therapy and gradual exposure therapy can help individuals slowly rebuild confidence and regain independence. Progress may happen one small step at a time, but every step matters. Recovery isn't about forcing yourself into frightening situations. It's about teaching your brain that you are capable of handling them. When most people hear the term separation anxiety, they think of young children crying when a parent leaves the room. And while separation anxiety is common during childhood, it can sometimes become much more intense. And it doesn't only affect children. In fact, adults can experience it too. Separation. Anxiety disorder is characterized by excessive fear or distress about being separated from people to whom a person feels deeply attached. These attachment figures are usually parents, partners, children, family members, or other loved ones. For someone with this disorder, separation doesn't simply feel uncomfortable. It can feel frightening. They may constantly worry that something terrible will happen to the person they love. Thoughts like, what if they get hurt? What if something happens while we're apart? What if I never see them again? Can become difficult to control. These fears often lead to behaviors designed to maintain closeness and safety. Some people repeatedly text or call loved ones for reassurance. Others avoid being alone, resist traveling, or become extremely distressed when separation is expected. Children may refuse to attend school, sleep alone, or participate in activities away from their caregivers. Adults may struggle when their partner travels, works late, or spends time away from home. Physical symptoms are also common. Stomach aches, headaches, nausea, difficulty sleeping, and panic-like symptoms can occur when separation is anticipated or actually happens. While everyone misses people they care about, separation anxiety disorder involves fear that is far more intense than the situation requires. Researchers believe the disorder may be influenced by genetics, temperament, early life experiences, attachment patterns, and stressful life events. Experiences such as loss, illness, trauma, or major life changes can sometimes contribute to its development. The good news is that separation anxiety disorder is highly treatable. Cognitive behavioral therapy can help individuals challenge catastrophic thoughts and develop healthier coping strategies. Gradual exposure to separation situations, emotional regulation skills, and supportive relationships can also make a significant difference. Healthy attachment is important, but true security comes from knowing that you can remain connected to the people you love, even when they're not physically beside you. Imagine being fully capable of speaking. You know exactly what you want to say. You understand the conversation. You have the words in your mind. But when it's time to speak, nothing comes out. Not because you forgot what to say. Not because you don't understand the language. And not because you're being rude. This condition is known as selective mutism. Selective mutism is an anxiety disorder in which a person is unable to speak in certain social situations, despite being able to speak comfortably in others. For example, a child may talk normally at home with family members, but become completely silent at school. An adult may speak freely with close friends, but struggle to talk during meetings, interviews, or unfamiliar social situations. The silence is not a choice. It is the result of overwhelming anxiety. Many experts describe it as the brain's fear response becoming so intense that speaking feels impossible. It's similar to how some people freeze when frightened. The person wants to communicate, but anxiety temporarily blocks their ability to do so. Selective mutism usually begins during childhood and is often linked to social anxiety disorder. Because children with this condition may appear shy or quiet, the problem is sometimes overlooked. However, the impact can be significant. Difficulty speaking at school may affect learning, friendships, participation, and self-confidence. Over time, untreated anxiety can continue into adolescence and adulthood. Researchers believe selective mutism may involve a combination of genetic factors, temperament, anxiety sensitivity, and environmental influences. Children who are naturally cautious or highly sensitive to social evaluation may be more vulnerable. The good news is that selective mutism is highly treatable. Early intervention often leads to the best outcomes. Treatment may include cognitive behavioral therapy, gradual exposure to speaking situations, positive reinforcement, family support, and collaboration with teachers or caregivers. The goal isn't to force someone to speak. It's to help them feel safe enough that speaking becomes possible. With patience, understanding, and the right support, many people with selective mutism learn to communicate confidently in situations that once felt overwhelming. Most people have experienced unwanted thoughts at some point. Maybe you've wondered if you locked the door, or whether you left the stove on. You might even have had a strange or disturbing thought pop into your mind for no apparent reason. Usually, these thoughts come and go. But for people with Obsessive-Compulsive Disorder, or OCD, these thoughts can become persistent, distressing, and extremely difficult to ignore. OCD is characterized by a cycle of obsessions and compulsions. Obsessions are unwanted, intrusive thoughts, images, urges, or fears that repeatedly enter a person's mind. These thoughts often create intense anxiety. Compulsions are repetitive behaviors or mental rituals performed in an attempt to reduce that anxiety. For example, someone may become obsessed with the fear of contamination. To relieve the anxiety, they might wash their hands repeatedly. Another person may fear leaving a door unlocked and feel compelled to check it over and over again. Others may experience intrusive thoughts involving harm, religion, relationships, morality, or responsibility. One of the most misunderstood aspects of OCD is that people usually recognize their fears are irrational or exaggerated. They often know the ritual shouldn't be necessary. But the anxiety feels so overwhelming that resisting it becomes incredibly difficult. Imagine having an alarm system that keeps going off even when there's no real danger. That's what OCD can feel like. The brain continuously sends false warning signals, and the compulsions provide temporary relief. Unfortunately, that relief doesn't last. The obsession returns, the anxiety increases, and the cycle begins again. OCD is not simply being organized, clean, or detail-oriented. It's a serious anxiety-related disorder that can consume hours of a person's day and significantly affect work, school, relationships, and overall well-being. Researchers believe OCD involves a combination of genetics, brain circuitry differences, environmental factors, and abnormalities in how the brain processes uncertainty and threat. Fortunately, OCD is highly treatable. One of the most effective treatments is exposure and response prevention therapy, often called ERP. This approach helps individuals gradually face their fears without performing the compulsive behavior. Over time, the brain learns that the feared outcome never occurs. Medication and cognitive behavioral therapy may also be helpful. The goal isn't to eliminate every intrusive thought. It's to stop those thoughts from controlling your life. Because thoughts are just thoughts, and they don't have to define who you are. Have you ever felt a strange sensation in your body and immediately searched for it online? Maybe it was a headache, a muscle twitch, a small lump, or an unexplained ache. Most people occasionally worry about their health, but for individuals with illness anxiety disorder, those worries can become overwhelming and difficult to control. Illness anxiety disorder is characterized by an excessive fear of having or developing a serious medical condition. What's unique is that the person's symptoms may be very mild or sometimes not present at all, yet the anxiety remains intense. A minor bodily sensation can quickly be interpreted as evidence of a severe illness. A simple headache becomes a brain tumor. A normal heartbeat fluctuation becomes a heart condition. A small skin change becomes something life-threatening. The fear isn't based on the actual severity of the symptom. It's based on how the brain interprets it. People with illness anxiety disorder often become hyper-aware of their bodies. They constantly monitor sensations, looking for signs that something might be wrong. Some repeatedly search symptoms online. Others frequently visit doctors, request tests, or seek reassurance from family and friends. Ironically, that reassurance usually provides only temporary relief. Soon, the anxiety returns. Some people take the opposite approach. Instead of seeking reassurance, they avoid doctors, hospitals, and health information because they're afraid of what they might discover. In both cases, anxiety remains in control. Researchers believe this disorder involves a combination of anxiety, sensitivity, personality traits, past experiences with illness, family influences, and cognitive biases that make certain threats seem more likely than they really are. The brain becomes overly focused on detecting danger, even when none exists. Fortunately, illness anxiety disorder is highly treatable. Cognitive behavioral therapy can help people challenge catastrophic interpretations and develop healthier ways of responding to uncertainty. Mindfulness techniques can also help reduce constant symptom monitoring. One of the most important lessons in recovery is accepting that absolute certainty about health is impossible. Every human body experiences sensations, changes, and discomfort from time to time. Learning not to interpret every sensation as a disaster can dramatically reduce anxiety, because sometimes the greatest threat isn't the symptom itself. It's the fear surrounding it. Most people have things they'd like to change about their appearance. Maybe they wish they were taller. Maybe they don't like a scar, a hairstyle, or a particular feature. These concerns are common. But for people with body dysmorphic disorder, or BDD, appearance-related worries become far more intense. Body dysmorphic disorder is a mental health condition characterized by an overwhelming preoccupation with perceived flaws in physical appearance. These flaws may be minor or even completely unnoticeable to others. Yet, to the person experiencing BDD, they can feel impossible to ignore. Someone might become convinced that their nose is misshapen, their skin is severely flawed, their hair looks terrible, or that a certain part of their body appears abnormal. These concerns often consume hours of the day. People with BDD may repeatedly check mirrors, avoid mirrors entirely, compare themselves to others, seek reassurance, use excessive grooming behaviors, or spend large amounts of time trying to hide the perceived flaw. Social media can sometimes make these struggles even worse. Constant exposure to edited photos, beauty filters, and unrealistic standards may reinforce feelings of inadequacy. Over time, anxiety, shame, embarrassment, and low self-esteem can begin affecting work, relationships, school, and daily life. Some individuals avoid social situations altogether because they fear being judged based on their appearance. One of the most difficult aspects of BDD is that reassurance rarely solves the problem. Even when others say, "You look fine," nobody notices that. There's nothing wrong with you. The anxiety often remains. That's because the problem isn't the appearance itself. It's the way the brain interprets and focuses on that appearance. Researchers believe BDD may involve differences in visual processing, perfectionism, genetics, anxiety, and obsessive thinking patterns. In many ways, BDD shares similarities with obsessive-compulsive disorder. Fortunately, body dysmorphic disorder is treatable. Cognitive behavioral therapy can help individuals challenge distorted beliefs about appearance and reduce compulsive behaviors. Exposure-based techniques and, in some cases, medication may also be helpful. Recovery doesn't mean believing you're perfect. It means learning that your worth is not defined by a perceived flaw, because human value goes far beyond physical appearance. Imagine surviving a terrifying event, a serious accident, a natural disaster, physical violence, combat, abuse, or witnessing something deeply traumatic. In the days and weeks afterward, it's normal to feel shaken, anxious, and emotionally overwhelmed. But for some people, the brain doesn't fully process the experience. Instead, it remains stuck in survival mode. This condition is known as post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD. PTSD is a mental health disorder that can develop after experiencing or witnessing a traumatic event. It affects how the brain processes fear, danger, memory, and emotions. Even when the traumatic event is over, the brain may continue reacting as if the threat is still present. Many people with PTSD experience intrusive memories. These unwanted memories can appear suddenly and feel incredibly vivid. Some individuals experience nightmares. Others experience flashbacks, where it feels as though the traumatic event is happening all over again. Because these experiences are so distressing, people often begin avoiding reminders of the trauma. They may avoid certain places, conversations, people, sounds, smells, or situations connected to the event. Hypervigilance is also common. The brain becomes constantly alert, scanning the environment for danger. Small noises may trigger a strong startle response. Relaxing can feel nearly impossible. Many people describe feeling emotionally exhausted, disconnected, or constantly on edge. PTSD can also affect mood and relationships. Some individuals struggle with guilt, shame, anger, sadness, emotional numbness, or feelings of isolation. Over time, anxiety may become a daily battle. Scientists have found that PTSD involves changes in brain regions responsible for threat detection, emotional regulation, and memory processing. The brain's alarm system becomes hypersensitive. It starts treating ordinary situations as potential threats. But there is hope. PTSD is treatable. Trauma-focused therapies such as cognitive processing therapy, EMDR, and trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy have helped millions of people recover. Support groups, healthy coping strategies, mindfulness practices, and, in some cases, medication can also play an important role. Healing from trauma does not mean forgetting what happened. It means teaching your brain that the danger has passed. It means learning that you are safe again. And although recovery takes time, many people go on to build meaningful, healthy, and fulfilling lives after trauma. The experience may become part of your story, but it does not have to define your future. Anxiety is not just one disorder. It can appear in many different forms, from constant worry and panic attacks to social fears, intrusive thoughts, health anxiety, and trauma-related stress. Understanding these differences helps us better understand ourselves and the people around us. If you found this video helpful, subscribe to Inside Your Mind for more easy-to-understand videos about psychology, mental health, neuroscience, and human behavior. And tell us in the comments, which anxiety disorder surprised you the most? Until next time, take care of your mind.